Just get out of the come on for everybody. Where I live's like 5 minutes from the
We're on the bookcase.
Today we're joined by two special guests who are going to describe themselves and give you a bit some more information. Jamie and Chris. Chris I only met really today. Jamie I met some 21 years ago. So I've known him for some time, and it's a real pleasure to have him in the pub today. I think they've got a fantastic story, which was brought to light to me by Mark Stevenson and some work that Fuji have done. Rather than me harper on about what this is all about, I think we should really get into it. And I'm going to hand over to Milo and his twin brothers to kick things off. Milo, over to you. Oh, one thing just before we start. Any questions, if you can just hang on, put them in the chat, and then we'll come around the questions towards the end. That'd be great. Milo, go.
I think that's a good idea. So, yes, as Kellen said, Jamie and Chris are here, and they have created something called SoulKind. So, guys, would you be so kind and tell us, what is it?
Okay, do you want me to kick off, Chris?
For Jay.
Hi, everyone. This is really weird, isn't it? There's Oliver Gore. It's really weird. Anyway, okay, so yeah, we've created a magazine, as some of you may have seen, called SoulKind. And it's been about, 2.5 years in the making. And it started off as a bit of a passion project, I suppose, for me and Chris. Me being a designer, Chris being a photographer. And we kind of had this idea that we met about 3 years ago, Chris, something like that. And
yeah.
And we both knew that we wanted to do a little bit of a passion project outside of our day-to-day jobs, which were starting to grind us down. James thought you might think differently to that, but I did. You know, we were working round the clock for what we did, and my business was taking up all my time, and we just wanted to do something a little bit different, and we both wanted to create a magazine, and that's kind of where the idea started, but we weren't really sure what the magazine was going to be about. And we batted a few ideas around. Chris did this thing called Echoes of Our Fathers, which was like the forgotten traditions and trades that are starting to die out. And it was quite a nice idea in that. But what we found was there was a lot of people doing it already. And with an independent magazine, you need a niche. You need something that's gonna sell, but you need a niche and something to focus on and something you can hang your hat on. And that's what we were kind of struggling to find until I had my accident. And I had a car accident, and it made me reevaluate life a little bit. And I knew one of the things I was going to have to deal with was resilience. And the kind of magazine grew from an idea of coming up with, it was something that shouted about positivity and stories of resilience and how people deal with trauma, but how people deal with the bigger problems in life, and people doing extraordinary things. And it kind of evolved really from there, Chris, didn't it? It was kind of like
yeah. I think the meeting with David Lemon kind of cemented the idea, didn't it? Sort of, you had your accident, and we had the seeds there already, didn't we? And then kind of exploring different people's mindsets, and not only, you know, we were meeting these amazing people that had done extraordinary things, but and their journeys and their adventures had been well documented. But what was this kind of unseen thing, this little magic formula that allowed these sort of seemingly normal people to do extraordinary things? And I think on top of Jamie's terrible accident at the time, it kind of just came together, didn't it? It dovetailed.
It is, yeah. And I suppose with David Lemon's story, so he was the first person that we were introduced to, and it just so happened he was looking after a friend's house in Sheepscombe in Stroud, near where we live, and we went to meet him, didn't we? And it was kind of like, we didn't have anything in the pipeline then. It wasn't, you know, the idea still didn't exist, but we'd met this guy who who walked the length of the Zambezi River on his own. And he did it for self-fulfillment. And there was something about this 70-year-old telling this story that we found quite compelling. And it was at the time, like, so we were on the shoot, and Chris, we just got to know this guy barely. And Chris said that he wanted him to look into the lens of the camera. So David came up close to the lens of the camera, and I was on my crutches, kind of sat down in the back, just watching. And Chris said to him, "Pretend I'm not here. Look into my camera, and I'm going to look into your soul." And I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed at first, to be honest, because he'd only just met the guy.
Yeah.
And, but there was something in that, looking into his soul, because the idea of these soul shots that we do is about looking into people's eyes, and you can tell a lot by looking into someone's eyes. And so the cover shot of David Lemon, we promised him at the time, because he was telling us a story about how he'd done all these interviews for other magazines. And there was one particular interview where he was promised the cover shot, and then he got the magazine, it landed on his desk, and the cover was Levison Wood. And the journalist said that unfortunately Levison Wood was prettier and younger, so he got the cover spot. So there's a nice story behind David Lemon and saying to him, "Do you know what? We're going to give you the cover," and we stood by that. And people have ummed and ahed, you know, it's kind of like, do we want an old-looking fella on the front of a magazine? Is it going to sell? But we absolutely love it, because it shows exactly what this magazine's all about.
Yeah.
You can see something in his eyes, and that comes across when you meet him, you know.
It's one of the plus points of doing a passion project. You do what you want. There's no kind of airs or graces about us. We got into this for fun, and to be true to ourselves. So we're not really bothered or swayed by marketing or what we should do.
So what's the ethos? What's the idea behind SoulKind?
So in the end, the ethos that kind of knitted together was tales of human endeavor, exploration, and resilience. And what we found was that this issue is kind of slightly biased towards adventurers, but essentially what we want to do is tell stories of either endeavor, exploration, or resilience across the board. So it can be any type of people. And essentially, it's about breaking down the barriers, you know, because some of these adventurers, you know, are put on a bit of a pedestal, but they're just normal people. And that's what we found pretty quickly, is that these are just normal people doing normal things. But actually, with the right mindset, if you approach things in the right way, you can do anything you want. You know, anything's achievable. And there it is. There's the picture.
There it is.
I was going to do that myself. It's all in my thunder.
Yeah. Someone in the chat was saying, can we see the magazine, please? So I just thought I'd hold it up there.
Yeah, I appreciate some of you might have seen it, some of you haven't. I know Calv is banging on that he hasn't got his copy yet, but it's.
I think the thing is, Jamie, it's like Jamie and I discussed. It's like a lot of people pay a lot of money for business insight to high-level directors, CEOs that have done very well in the industry. And what we found sitting in front of David and these people was suddenly getting insight into these golden nuggets that, you know, a lot of us don't experience in normal day life, you know.
So we lost Chris?
Sounds that way.
Film David's journey, but he turned them down. You know, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah, just back up a bit, Chris, and say the last 30
Just saying
seconds again.
No, we've lost him.
Talking about an insight to these people's, you know, and these nuggets.
No.
Priceless. So,
Chris, would you mind switching off your camera, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to help, because we would like to hear your story, but we can't at the moment.
Yeah, that should help.
He just said,
hear me out?
"You're up to Chris. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. He's rude."
Hello. Hello. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you crack on for now, Jamie. You carry on.
So just picking up on your nuggets.
Yes, you leave my nuggets alone.
Yeah, there was so all of these people that we met, like we're trying to tap into these kind of little nuggets that are basically mindset. Mindset is something that we can't see, right? So resilience is especially important to me because I've had to deal with quite a lot over the last 2 years, as some of you will know, and resilience is something that you don't see, and all of these things, the mindset is something that, you know, we don't train our mind, we don't exercise the mind, and it's these barriers and these things that we can't see, but actually they're little golden nuggets that we can all learn from. And what we found was that especially what I found actually was by surrounding myself with these positive people and these positive stories, it gave me a kind of a reassurance and something to hold on to and something to learn from and something to grow with, because they all kind of had these valid ways of doing things. And David Lemon, I suppose, yeah, he does the same thing, but all of the people in the magazine essentially are people with a strong mindset that are doing inspirational things that are pretty good to read about, you know?
I'm sure it is, but looking from a different perspective,
Yeah.
you know, why would anyone in the right mind really publish a new magazine in current times? You know,
Yeah, I know. It's really
publishing business, opening a publishing business right now.
Thing is,
nuts.
Yeah, it's a really stupid business idea, isn't it?
Why wouldn't you though, Milo? It's I know what you mean. It's like a lot of the big titles, you know, can't exist at the moment, you know, and they're heavily funded by advertising, and you know, and they're all going the online route, aren't they? They're going the digital route. But there is actually a growth in independent magazines, and we're quite fortunate in a way because we live very close to a kind of the hub spot of the publishing of in magazines. Down in Bristol, there's all sorts of indie mags coming out, like Serial, Another Escape, all these very successful independent magazines. And I think the difference is, I don't know whether it's an authenticity or whether it's a lack of love for their audience. I don't know. I just think with the independent magazines, it's well thought out. It's something that kind of has evolved over, you know, you only usually get biannual, or they come out 4 times a year. So a lot of effort goes into it. It's usually in a niche. It speaks very directly to an audience. There's a lot of love in it. As I say, it's you don't get into it to make money. And if it does and it pays for itself, it's almost kind of a bonus. But I think perhaps a lot of the bigger titles may have lost some of that element, and you know, they're geared heavily by funding, profit making, whereas we aren't. Well, I mean, we have to kind of make a profit to launch edition 2. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
Well, like it's financial suicide, right? That's what we were told, wasn't it? Somebody said to us, if you're thinking about doing a magazine, don't. So, you know, if you take that advice, you just walk away, don't you? And that's that. But I think for me, we're in a time where there's so much clickbait, there's so much online information that's gone tomorrow. But what we're doing is producing something that you can read at your own leisure and absorb and enjoy. You can read it twice if you want. I mean, when was the last time you picked someone up and read it twice? You know, it's for me, it demonstrates that ability to slow down, take 5 minutes for yourself and read something that's kind of positive, because that puts you in a good mind space. For me, that puts you in a good place. There's a friend of mine who lives in Brazil, and she was saying to me that as soon as she gets her copy, she's going to leave it by a hammock. They have hammocks in Brazil, and she was calling it a hammock book, because she wanted to to use it for that half an hour she gets to herself every day, to sit in a hammock with a cocktail and have a good read of it. And there's something really nice about that, which you can't do with an email. You're not going to sit in a hammock with a cocktail and read an email, are you? Or maybe you are, but I don't think we should. I think we should all come away from our phones and digital platforms and read SoulKind magazine, basically.
So where do you both come from? Can you tell us more about yourselves and your background?
Chris, do you want to...
Yeah, so I'm an ex-printer.
There you go.
Yeah, I ran a digital print company. I was IT initially. I've always been into photography, right from a small boy. Perhaps never had the confidence to do it full time as a professional job. But I sort of graduated, went into IT, worked for the government, got a little bit of a fed up with the civil service, as it were, and found my way strangely into print, and specifically digital print. So I was always interested in how the web connected to print, and the fascination of being able to print single copies. And out of that came 5 years of running my own business in as a digital printing company, and always loved print. Unfortunately, I was around in 2008 when half the British printing business collapsed, and I was one of the casualties of that. Came out, went months, but during those few dark months, I picked up my camera again, and it was a kind of a healing process for me. And people started paying me to take photos again, and I am where I am. And in a kind of way, I love what I do now. So it's a kind of, in a strange way, it was a kind of blessing what happened to me. But you know, I think print remains with you. It's in my blood a little bit. So I've always been enamored by the ancient process of printing, and Jamie, as Jamie said, you know, the fascination or the ability to come and be able to pick up a magazine again and again and go back to it. My friend last night sent me a message saying, I've been reading the magazine with my daughter and she's inspired to go out and do her own adventures. And I just couldn't imagine the same feeling of showing or reading a book or a magazine with your daughter on an email or something electronically on the laptop. You know, there is something beautiful about print, and that's me. That's where I am. I'm a full-time professional photographer now. I do a lot of work actually with Fuji, but I shoot for all sorts. I shoot for English Heritage, and yeah. So I'm that's what I do. That's my full-time job, and now for SoulKind. So.
And I know, like, to butt in, I know, like Chris, because I've worked in the industry for, as Cal said, for quite a long time, and I've worked with a lot of photographers that are all have their own merit. You know, they're all good in their own at their own thing. But there was something about Chris's work, and as a photographer, he won't stand up and admit to it. And I remember you saying you had imposter syndrome when you came into the industry, but as an art director and somebody that uses photographers a lot, I looked at his work, and he can capture something that a lot of photographers can't do. And that's pretty special to come by, you know? So I will take full, basically it was me, wasn't it? Sunshine.
You had me at hello, mate.
But the thing is, it's like, there's something about Chris's work where that just feels right for this project, and that's why I know it was a kind of, we were onto a good thing, you know.
Well, I appreciate that, Jay, but there was also an uncanny meeting. I don't know if Jay can remember how we met. I was struggling to get my business live as a photographer, and I actually did an email broadcast one day. I was running out of work rapidly at the start. This is a few years back, and I put an email kind of marketing campaign out, and Jamie was the only one that responded. And yeah, so out of all the hundreds, I went out to meet him, and that was that. You know, the rest is history. So yeah.
Jamie, do you want to mention, you know, your background?
Yeah, so I run a brand consultancy in Cheltenham, and I've worked I've worked in the kind of creative industry for the last 20 years. And I started off in a print company with Mr. James Hall. And we used to work very hard at what we did. He was more the tech side. I was the, I don't really know what my position was back then, you know. I can't remember why they took me on, but it was always creative, let's put it that way. And we had a good time. And I think we grew into ourselves and we grew into what we did for a living. And I look back and it makes me smile at where we've come from. But essentially, I've always been on the creative side, and my background was kind of the digital, online, offline bridging gap, if you like. So I worked for a lot of agencies that were struggling to take their offering online, because there was a lot of traditional agencies out there sticking with print and doing direct marketing and marketing in the traditional sense, but not really knowing how to evolve that and take it online. So I became the kind of creative bridging gap that understood about having an idea and adapting it to channels. It doesn't matter what your channel is. So when you talk about print, you know, why we've chosen print is, for me, it's because I believe print is the best way to deliver this as an idea. But similarly, you know, it has its place. And it's another channel, isn't it? So this whole online offline thing is quite an interesting one, and that's kind of where my career has kind of ended up with the brand consultancy, is that I've stepped back from actually creating stuff, as it were, and actually advising people which channels to use and how to do it effectively.
Okay, so why didn't you go digital?
Well, as I said to you earlier, actually, it's because you can't smell an email, can you? I've got this real thing about books and magazines. You know, you pick up a magazine and you feel it and you smell it. We're weird, I know, but that's what you do, and then you cherish it. You know, and you pick this thing up and you put it on your bookshelf and you flick through it and it smells and it touches, and then you put it down, you pick it up again. You don't do that with an email. That's not the digital way, you know? So for me, we could have done a podcast. I did a podcast the other day with a friend of mine, and we could have done this as a podcast. It would have been a hell of a lot easier and a lot cheaper. But would it have delivered the information in the right way? I don't think it would, no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Chris, do you want to add to it? Or are you?
Well, just to echo Jamie's words, really, it's, you know, there's nothing really sexy about an email, is there? So it's, it goes back to this, you know, what I talked about before, this I don't know, there's kind of research. It's like, I don't know, I think through lockdown also, we learned to appreciate a little bit about what matters. I feel there's a few good things that has come out of lockdown, appreciation of what, you know, of authenticity and the ability to slow down. And, you know, there's a resurgence in vinyl. You know, you get an album, like I've been looking for an album recently for a band called Gangs of Youth from Australia, amazing band. Check them out on Spotify. And it's like, I had the option to buy, you know, to download the album, but I didn't. I bought the vinyl version from Germany. It was really rare to get hold of. And it's like, I can go back to it and I can play another track. It's an experience. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that doesn't happen with an email or an ebook. You know, you want that tangible bit of history in your hands. So
I don't know if we had done this the digital route. I wonder whether we would have got the overwhelming response that we have as well. And that would we have got people emailing and messaging saying, "I think it looks beautiful"? I don't know if you would, because you don't say an email looks beautiful. You don't say, "Oh, this," you know. So I think it just goes back to that thing about print being tactile, you know?
Yeah. So you think that medium that you selected, print, is the part of your success? So
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But saying that, I think what we're trying to do as well is build a brand, and that I want SoulKind to be a brand, a positivity brand. So I think the idea of SoulKind for me transcends a magazine. And we'd love eventually for it to become workshops where people can come to the workshops and be inspired by people, because ultimately we've got 11 people in a magazine, And unless we do 4 or 5 magazines a year, then we can only at the moment with a biannual magazine feature 22 people. But there's so many people out there with different inspirational stories that workshops are the next best thing, where people can actually come and meet these people and hear, or even maybe that's the point where digital comes in and it becomes Zoom broadcast, talks from these people.
Yeah. So from a broader perspective, how do you think how do you perceive print as a medium? How important is it?
I think it's massively important. I mean, it's been, and it's, I think we all sit here today as people in the print industry, and we get it, but I think it's massively important. I don't think it'll ever go away because of what we just said about, you need this tactile experience, which you just don't get in the throwaway digital culture. Digital culture is quick and fast, whereas print it allows you to slow down. I don't know what the split is of people that read books on a Kindle, but it's that same thing, isn't it? Where, you'll get a die-hard of people that buy books as opposed to buying them on a Kindle. And I think that's just because people like to have something in their hand that they can flick through, something.
Okay. All right. So having in mind that you had first issue now published, who do you want to talk about in the future? What do you want to take? SoulKind.
There's a bone of contention.
Go on.
We've already had our meeting too, and I don't think anything was resolved really. I think Jamie and I both, I don't know, we want contributors that, irrespective of their audience, or they don't have to be famous, or I think what we would like is probably a mix of people that, as long as the story shows that they've been through a journey, they've got something to impart to our audience that we can take away and learn from, then it's all good. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the stories have to be interesting, but the whole thing that's really important is there to inspire as well. And when this is a passion project, and when you start doing it, you kind of look at it, and we turn up to do the interviews and do the photo shoots, and you kind of think, well, perhaps you don't think, you're putting this creative piece together, hoping that it will inspire people. And when it's finished, it goes out, and you've done your best. But what we found is the comments and the positivity coming back, it is rubbing off on people. People are being inspired, and that's an incredible thing to get that, because it's, you just don't know if it's going to happen. You do your best, you put out a creative piece and see what happens, and it's actually producing results. And I think as long as Jamie and I, we're going to stay passionate, enthusiastic, authentic, and just pick people with good stories from a range of different walks of life. But as long as they've got, an interesting story that embodies those qualities, I think that's the beauty of the magazine. We can keep the problem when we first started thinking of ideas. I could imagine doing edition 1, then getting bored. Because we're tapping into the mindset, it's endless. We can keep speaking to all sorts of people out there: conservationists, environmentalists, athletes, creatives, business people.
So
the list is endless.
Inspiring, really. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Perhaps doing extraordinary things, showing story. Has been through stories of exploration, resilience, endeavor.
Okay, so what do you think? Who would be interested in your magazine?
Say that again, Milo.
Do you know who would be interested in your magazine? Do you have, in the marketing terms, target audience?
Well, for me, I mean, the audience is everyone that likes a positive story. I mean, that's the beauty of this, is that although you have to find a niche, I think what you need to find a niche for your magazine to focus on. But ultimately, I think the audience that we can tap into is so diverse from all age ranges, from what Chris said earlier about his friend and his daughter reading it. I literally think this this goes through all audiences of all ages that kind of want to be inspired. I mean, who doesn't want to read a story about positivity, you know? So that works in our favor to a degree. I think that's one of the positive points for this. That it's
I guess you're right, because we are surrounded by negative messages from everywhere.
The news is all doom and gloom, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I try not to look at the news anymore, because it just does your head in, doesn't it? So this is just that little, and it goes back to having that time for yourself. If you just make time for yourself, which is really important, and have that half an hour to sit down and read a story that's really positive and it makes you feel good, then that's like, everybody likes that, don't they? From all ages and all walks of life, I think.
Well, the only thing to say is where we can get it from.
Okay, so we've got a website, obviously soulkindpeople.co.uk, where you can get the first edition. We've just put subscriptions up there, so we're committing to the first 2 editions, and you can either buy them singly or subscribe online. So soulkindpeople.co.uk. We're really trying to get this going in Instagram as well, and social media. So Instagram's kind of being our friend. So if people can spread the word on Instagram, it would be amazing, because ultimately it's a good audience for us to grow. We're still trying to get our heads around the social media side of things a little bit, because it's not my bag as such. But we're working on it, and it's growing, and it's a good way of keeping in touch with your audience for sure. And ultimately we're going to commit to the first 2, so you can subscribe to the first 2, like I said, and then we're going to look for investment from here on in to get issues 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so on going. But I mean, how lovely would it be to look back in 10 editions time and see the amount of people we've spoken to and the amount of stories, you know? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's going to be a fantastic portfolio, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, it's so we had a bit of a battle about the pricing as well, but within the indie mag culture, between 10 and 20 quid is around about right. So I think £15 for a magazine that is content heavy with no adverts is a pretty good deal, you know.
And I'm sure Mark can do something about it.
So we've had some questions from the chat. Deborah, you had a question.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. First of all, awesome story. I love people who start magazines. So congratulations. I mentioned it in the chat. I have a podcast that is listened to in 130 countries. If you guys are interested, I'd be happy to volunteer to help you promote. We can set up a time to do that. But I do actually have a question for you, which is about how you chose your paper. I'm very interested in the process that you went through. Did you look at swatch books and pick things out? Did you consult with printers? Did you use your designer brain and just say, I want this? How did it work?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in magazine design and brand for quite some time, and it's kind of something I do on every job that I do. You know, we look at paper stocks to print brand identity on. So it's I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to paper stocks and things like that. But I think ultimately for us, because we partnered with Fujifilm on this, we took Emerson's lead, to be honest with you, on the paper stocks that suited the machine, because I'd never heard of the jet press, so I was being sold this new fandangled jet press idea that was supposed to rival litho. So for me, it was like, well, this is your platform to demonstrate how freaking cool this thing is. Show me your best stock that showcases the ink, you know? So I can't remember the name of the stock we actually went with in the end, but it was...
Jamie, I've got a list here from the guys at Emerson, so you want me to read it out for the geeks?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Mark.
Okay, so the cover is on 300-gram horizon offset. The text is on 120-gram horizon offset, and the gloss sheets are on 150-gram essential gloss. There you have it.
You don't get that with an email, Milo, do you?
No.
I don't know why you don't remember that, Jamie.
Thank you.
Very good. Brendan had a good question. Brendan, you raised a question first up. Off mute, mate.
I'll zoom now. Yeah, so I wondered, you talked about it a little bit, but we're obviously mostly print geeks here. This is a bit of a bubble, but as an artist, and maybe this is both to Jamie and Chris, as an artist, what is it do you think about the essential quality of print, of paper, that connects with us more as human beings, and was the medium that you chose for this this passion project of yours?
Chris, do you want to?
I just think print is beautiful. It's an ancient process. It's still here, isn't it? It's still here. It hasn't changed. Okay, we've got the jet press and digital printing technology now, but fundamentally, it hasn't changed that much. So it's always going to be relevant, I think. I often go into various printers with Fujifilm to do the photo shoot, and often I'll see an old Heidelberg press, from way back when, the oldie days of yore. And yeah, it's the quality coming off it, it's still here. Nothing's changed. It's always going to be here. It's beautiful, authentic. You can put it down, pick it up, come back to it, It's calming. Something very, it's the beauty of print, I think. That's why.
And just to add to that as well, actually, somebody said to me a while back about this, like the indie magazine culture is growing, right? And what a lot of people do when they sign up for a magazine, and I've done this with multiple magazines. I don't even read magazines, and yet I've just written one. How weird is that? But what they do is they sign up to a brand because they want to feel a part of something. And that's where we're going to hopefully get to with SoulKind, is that actually what people want to do is when somebody comes around your house and they see SoulKind on your coffee table or on your shelf, it makes you fairly proud to be a part of that. So it's you don't get that with digital media. You just don't, because of that, you feel part of that thing, don't you? And there's, I just don't think you feel proud about digital media. And I'd love for people to buy into that so SoulKind being more, it's more than a magazine. It's a way of, it sounds a bit crap, doesn't it? But it's a way of life, it's a way of thinking. It is a mindset, and it's about spreading positivity. And
it's an affection as well, isn't it, Jamie? It's like you have an affection or a love for a book. Whereas I don't think you can like a website because of the information on it, but you actually love a book. It goes back to our basic human core principles, I think, and print is definitely in there. It resonates with that. So,
because when you finish reading a book, you most people keep it on their shelves, don't they?
Yeah,
probably never to be read again.
Like Steve Harrop.
I've not read any. Not read any of them.
I have a question / comment.
Just a backdrop.
Yeah.
This book is Peeps at Many Lands. Scotland was my grand's favourite book,
right.
Which she was given in 1926 as a school prize. And it's on specialty paper, and it's got these incredible illustrations in it. And she read that twice a year.
Maybe you should take it back. The library charges are going to be enormous.
So Paul Stead, you had a question?
And she read that 180 times since she was given to it in 1926. So, that's for me, when you said, Jamie, earlier, someone reading something more than twice and taking the time to relax, she read that since she was a schoolgirl and kept it on the shelf and kept reading it because it was beautiful. And I think for me, that was a really inspiring thing you said, because that's why our industry will survive. That's why print is important.
I think so. It's a lovely thing, right? I love the fact that you're relying on a 120-year-old book with SoulKind.
That was well said, Brendan. Paul Stead, you had I'm going to come to you, Deborah, don't worry. Paul Stead, you had a comment. Was it answered over subscription? Was that your question?
No, that hasn't been answered, but it just strikes me, because so other people in the chat have bought this book. I've been and bought this book. Guys, set up a subscription, because I'm thick as two short planks.
I know.
I do things once, and that covers me for the year. Job done. If you ask me to do it every month, never going to happen.
Yeah.
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 We're learning.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
And sorted, I think. I think we sorted it.
I think we sorted it, yeah.
So Deborah, coming over to you now.
Thank you so much. So Jamie, you had me
Oh, here we go.
until you just trashed digital media for absolutely no reason.
Okay.
As the same time in the beginning of this chat, you talked about Instagram and how important it was.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're creating a movement, then all channels are relevant and important. If you're just trying to sell a magazine subscription, then what you're saying makes sense. So are you trying to create a movement, or are you trying to sell a magazine?
No, I think we're cross purposes then. I would never trash digital media because it will never go away. There's a time and a place, but it's a channel, right?
Correct.
What I do for a living is I create ideas. Those ideas then need to be shown to people. And in order to show it to people, you use a channel, and you pick your channels, whichever that channel is, that's going to have most impact within your audience, right? And that's it. So I believe we're creating a movement. I know, and that might be too big for what we've done, but I genuinely believe SoulKind is a movement, not just a magazine. But for right now, I think the way to launch that movement and to get people excited about it, the best channel to do that is through print. But we also have to use digital media, of course you do, to promote it, right? So I think what I'm trying to say is that our stories will be better absorbed in print, but alongside that print, we're running a really fast-paced social media, call it campaign if you like, or presence, just to make sure that that audience is being delivered to. But what's also really interesting is that the followers that we create on Instagram haven't necessarily all bought the magazine. And that's going to be a really interesting relationship to start exploring, is can we convert them to buy the magazine? Because they might just be a digital audience. And if that's the case, then we'll give them the content that they want.
I think the danger there, Jamie, is, Deborah, the danger there is giving away too much of the family silver. What Deborah does incredibly well is excites people and whets their appetite, but she doesn't give away the whole answer. You've got to go and get it. And perhaps that's what and I know what she's saying, tempt people online, but give them something hard physically.
Right. Deborah, did you want to add to that, Deborah?
I was just going to say that you know, there's a way to you know, create the audience and give them content online, and have the magazine be the special thing that has special content that only people can get if they subscribe to the magazine, interviews with people that aren't online and things of that nature. But it made me a little nervous that you were dismissing like the online experience to, so, okay, I think we're on the same page.
That's cool. I just want to get a couple more questions in. So Robert, you had a good question.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I want to go to this channels issue because I think it's extremely important. Printers need to recognize that all the channels are important, and it depends which one you emphasize to get the effect that you want. So you need to know what you're talking about, or at least the person whose program is being run needs to know what they're talking about. And I want to make a point about that. A friend of mine's having an exhibit in Munich right now. He's a photographer, and it's quite a large exhibit. And one of the things that came out of it, the primary experience is the exhibit, because there's really nothing else like going into an exhibit of any type and actually seeing the things straight up front in terms of where they are. But one of the residuals is his book. And so the book is a record of the exhibit itself, and a lot of the work that he's done over his life. He also is an active user of virtually all the channels that exist through social media to be able to do it. So it's comprehensive. What's the emphasis? The exhibit was the emphasis. In fact, it's the genesis. And then after that, the book, and then all of the communication that took place through the social media channels that were being done. I'll give a shout out to Richard Bram, a fantastic photographer, if you have a chance to look him up. He's in England now. He's a native American, but not Native American, excuse me. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. But ultimately, he's very international, and the street photography that he does is great. But he uses all the channels. This is crucial.
Okay, good point there. Just getting some more questions in. Tim had a good question that he put on there. Tim, do you want to fire your question off? You put it in chat, Tim Cox.
Just unmuting, guys.
Yeah.
It was just really how on earth you managed to sort out good from bad. I mean, in my experience, most of the loud noises are the hollow vessels, and most of the really cool stories, the inspired stories, the things that blow your mind are hidden behind a really humble individual or a story that's not got the newsworthy coverage. So how on earth, I mean, you know, okay, we all know inspiring people, and that might be a child, it might be an old person, but how on earth do you get to a point where you've got a list of incredibly inspiring people? I mean, I haven't read it back to back, because Jamie, without wanting to just, you know, nod along with you, I'm kind of got the same attitude towards SoulKind as you said about your friend in Brazil. You know, it's a kind of pick up, put down. You don't want to sit and graze through it for hours. It's just a nice product to just read into, and it's been the same for everyone in my house. You know, they're mixed ages, so well done on it. But you know, I just wonder how on earth you can uncover these little gems that will often need quite a polish before you get them to a point you can write about what they've done. Because often just hide it.
Yeah, we. By the way, hi Tim, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. Nice beanie.
Thanks, mate. It's merch.
This I was going to say. Is this the new line?
Yeah, it's merched.
Have you done pants as well?
I can't show you that.
No, that's fine. I think probably for another cam session.
No, it's a really good question actually, because when we started this as a passion project, we kind of canvassed a lot of people hoping they'd say yes, right? And they did. And we're like, shit, okay, we need to follow this through. So we did, right? And I think we were extremely lucky that we, you know, it wasn't solely chance, but I think we were lucky that the people that that we've got, the 11 that we've picked, are inspiring people, right? But we're in the predicament now where we've got to find another 11. And all of a sudden, we're not canvassing and we're not just plucking them out of nowhere. We actually have to do our research and find these people. And
there's none in the pub, mate, so don't look here.
It's actually a really lovely thing to have to go through. And I know me and Chris had the same conversation the other day that we have to look really deeply now as to who these people are and what their stories are, because they have to inspire. And there's only 11 places, which is where...
Look in the chat.
And
look at the last entry in my...
Say again?
Look at the last entry I've put in the chat. Read it. It's truly, truly emotional, but incredibly inspiring.
Okay, yeah, we'll check it out. And it sort of goes back to this idea of the digital media that will exist in alongside this, because we can only get 11 people in our magazine, but there's so many inspirational people out there that I want to tell their story. And so I kind of want to start a blog on the side of this that tells the mini stories of all the other people that we're meeting that can't make the magazine, because a magazine can't be 200 people, right? So the digital side of this is that we can feature people in an area where people can still go and be inspired. So there's a really lovely connection that way.
I think that's going to be the hardest part. It's what we're going to have to do is find stories that resonate, both Jamie and myself. And there's probably going to be some really hard knuckle sort of conversations there. And it might even come down to a flip of a coin in the end. But I'm with you, Tim. I get because, you know, some of the best stories are from Joe Bloggs, as I've said to Jamie, who sits in the corner, who's got a story so miraculous that you would never believe. And kind of resonates far beyond them, you know. And it's finding those people that never speak about their stories. Often you only find out when they're gone sometimes, and it's no, exactly. But they are out there, you know. And there's you know, the kind of people that just do. They just do an incredible thing with, just because it's intrinsic in them. Do you know what I mean? And they never speak about it. And but we're finding our way. But likewise, there's a lot of people that have got incredible stories, and they've got awareness because of it, because of what they've done. So we need to tap into that as well, and hopefully we'll somehow get the balance. But it's a nice problem to have, as Jamie says.
It is. And in time, in years to come, you'll probably end up with a library of categorized stories based upon whether someone's looking for endeavor, heartfelt, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be a SoulKind version of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
So just keeping an eye on the time. We've got some more questions we want to get through, and I don't want to run out of time, and make sure we address everything. So James, you had a question you were itching to ask about the world's greatest web to print system, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so Ollie and I have become quite invested in your magazine over the last couple of years. And we also get an opportunity to discuss it. We also know quite a bit about personalization between us. And so we were trying to work out ways how we could add personalization to your magazine without it being a bit cliche or a bit pointless, but actually trying to enrich the user experience. Did you have any creative thoughts on that we could deliver the tech for?
Well, we've talked about it already right at the beginning, didn't we? Because it took 2 years to kind of pull all this together, and a lot of that time was discussing what can we do that's different, or so personalization came into it quite heavily. And I've always been under the mindset that when animation came to the web, everybody wanted to do animation, and then all of a sudden the web was full of crash animations that weren't really doing anything. So I think if we use personalization, we have to have a reason and a purpose for doing it, whatever that is. If we can find that reason, then it could be a really beautiful way of maybe creating like limited edition.
Yeah, you could try. I mean, you could tie it into the subscription base. That's an obvious channel of doing it.
I think,
but it does seem that there's an opportunity for doing more there, and not just changing, not just putting someone's name on the front cover. Although that could be cool.
That could be cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you talk about.
I have an idea that is probably gonna not fly, but it's a really good idea. Personalize your advertisements to somehow get some survey up on your website or through your Instagram, a digital media channel. Sorry to bring that up again. And find out who are the beer drinkers, who are the chip eaters, whatever it is. And then you can personalize the magazine through the offers and the opportunities. And that becomes something really valuable to that person.
Yeah, that's a good commercial driver, but it feels like it needs, when you've got a premium magazine, you kind of want to be able to go beyond that as well. I think you could combine that with it, but it does feel like you want to do something else that makes the reader smile as well.
Yeah, can I butt in and say what I love about this mag is there's not one advert in it.
Yeah,
and that is a fantastic thing. It makes it more than.
And how long is that going to last?
It's the fine line. It's the fine line.
The patronage of the subscribers, and that's, I think that's the value of this.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? You're talking about mental health positivity, and then you start interject. Both Jamie and I didn't want it laden with, like a lot of the magazines that you see nowadays, just full of advertising. And the two kind of don't mix. I'm not saying they can't. Somehow there might be a way forward with it, but I certainly think, you mentioned people's names. I used to work in the digital print business, and I watched the QR codes, etc., etc., etc. I mean, QR codes never worked unless there was real value behind the QR code, and it really served a purpose. And I've worked with various web to print systems and high degrees of personalization, and there had to be a tangible goal to the end of it to make people embrace the personalization or take it further. But I do think, you know, certainly you talked about patronage. There's possibly an idea where we could put people that, you know, support our magazine, become kind of part of the family. We could mention their name or their website. We're all about sharing behind, you know, in SoulKind. If people are doing good things, share their website, or we could extrapolate information and personalize that way.
Because we also spoke with personalization, James, we also spoke about tailoring content. So because we're on issue 1, right? So we've only got 1 edition at the moment, but when we get to say edition 5, and we've got, you know, it might be that we're collating 25 stories per issue. Actually, what we could start to do is then, like we said a minute ago, we could start filtering our audience online and start segmenting so that people can tailor content and create their own magazine.
Yeah.
If we had a bank of 25 people, and actually you went online and you said, you know what, I like numbers 1, 3, 7, 9, and 5, or whatever it is, and you can pull all those into a magazine and get it fired out on the jet press as a one-off. That's pretty special, because you're tailoring a magazine to what you want to read.
Yeah.
Or say it was a present for somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up to the 1/2 hour. We've got one more question. Lucy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, really great session and totally inspiring in what you're doing. So thank you. It's been brilliant listening to you. But just following on from James's question, in terms of how you could personalise the magazine further, I think in terms of, you know, you growing readership already and the people that you're embarking on in this journey, they're obviously going to be like-minded people, and from a like marketing perspective, sort of grow that movement, which is what you cited at the start of the conversation. If you had a per se aspect that you could dedicate the magazine to somebody when you order it online, which I guess VPress could do quite easily, you know, you order the magazine for yourself and then you order it for somebody else, and then somebody else receives the magazines, they're inspired by it, and they do exactly this again, and that could help, you know, grow that circulation that, you know, we're all on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do it from a dedication point of view, I guess. You've inspired me.
Which leads us nicely on to the next topic as we come to the end of this session of the pub. As you know, we do the Crown Pub to keep in touch during difficult times. In order to help the guys get going, we really inspire you and support you in going out there and buying your own copy. What we're also going to do at VPress is we're going to purchase 10 copies to give to somebody else who might help the growth of SoulKind. So we're going to ask you to get in touch on the pub page, get in contact with us, suggest someone we can send a copy of the magazine to in order to help the guys get going. So there's 10 free copies for someone who's inspired you in print or who you think could help the guys take this project further forward. And, you know, just get in touch, let us know who we should send them to, and we'll send them out.
Idea.
Yes.
Yeah, we really want to support the guys moving forward. So, yeah, and yeah. Okay, so if you could do that, let us know. Go on, Paul Stead, sorry.
How do you get names of people in front of these guys as potential subject matter topics? I've mentioned one in the chat, and it's stunning what that person's gone through. It's eye-watering.
Yeah.
I just saw that, Paul. That's an interesting story on the chat.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, let's try and do something and help SoulKind take off and get past the 10,000 copy mark per issue.
That'd be amazing.
Per issue. But get in touch on the Crown Pub page, which you should be following on LinkedIn. Suggest somebody, and we'll follow up with that, and we'll see if we can get them sent a copy in order to try and support them. And it could just be somebody who's inspired you in the world of print. But like I said, 10 copies to give away. We're back next week where we're going to talk about office products and what a great market that is for the print industry. We know that because we've been operated in that market for about 15, 16 years. So welcome to come and join us at 3:30 next week, 4 o'clock, when I'll be back in the UK. Now I'm going to go and join Lucy in the Italian office for a glass of vino, no doubt. Yeah, and thanks very much, everyone, for supporting.
Thanks, Calvin.
See you all again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Chris.
See you later.
Very good.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.